Hello, students. This is Chapter 9, The Living Earth. In this, we'll study about the Earth from the astronomy point of view. The emphasis of this chapter is all the dynamism that is going on inside the Earth, all the different processes within the oceans, within the atmosphere, and within the interior of the Earth. The main topics we'll cover here are what powers the motion of Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and land surfaces, how scientists have deduced the layered structure of a planet's interior, the evidence that continents are being continuously moved and reshaped, how life on Earth is protected from subatomic particles emitted by the sun, how the evolution of life has transformed the Earth's atmosphere, what causes the patterns of weather in our atmosphere, and how human civilization is causing dramatic and adverse changes to our planetary habitat. Actually, the last three parts are not really discussed in that much detail, but all the other parts are discussed in quite a bit of detail. Here is some information about the Earth. Here is the distance, the maximum distance, the minimum distance. The average distance is defined by a new unit, astronomical unit. So it is 1 AU. The eccentricity of the Earth's orbit is very small, 0.017. So for the most part, Earth's orbit around the sun is circular. Average orbital speed, about 30 kilometers per second. Orbital period, the time Earth takes to go around the sun, 365.256 days. You'll notice there is an extra 0.256 there. That is like 0.25 or a quarter. So actually, one full year is made up of 365 and a quarter day. And over the period of 4 years, those quarters add up to make one full day. And that is why we have leap years after every 4 years, where we have one extra day in February. The rotation period is 23.9345. This is the time it takes to complete a 360-degree rotation on its axis. This is something that has been explained in more detail in one of the earlier chapters. Inclination of the equator to the orbit. This is the tilt of the Earth's axis, about 23.5 degrees. Diameter, equatorial, 12,756 kilometers. Average density, 5,515 kilogram per cubic meter. Escape speed, 11.2 kilometers per second. Albedo, 0.31. This is actually more than the albedo is the reflectivity of light from a certain planet. This is actually more than the reflectivity of the moon, which is about 0.11. So the Earth, if you look at the Earth from the moon, the Earth looks much brighter than how the moon looks to us. The surface temperature range maximum is 60 degrees Celsius, mean 14 degrees Celsius, and minimum is minus 90 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric composition, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 0.035% carbon dioxide, and 1% water vapor. So the Earth has dynamic oceans with various jet streams and other things going on, causing a huge movement in the waters. The atmosphere is also very dynamic. And the land is also, over a period of thousands of years, the land is also moving, and the continental plates are moving and colliding into each other. Then there's erosion. how are all these processes powered? What is it that provides the energy for these processes? Ultimately, most of it is the sun. For example, the movement in the oceans is because of the heat of the sun, the evaporation, then condensation in the form of rain and snowfall, and the water coming back. Similarly, atmosphere, the sunlight heats the air, causes it to become lighter and rise, and then surrounding air comes in to takes its place. All of that, the complexity is powered by the sunlight. Only the movement of the Earth's surface is not powered by sunlight, and it is because of the internal heat of the Earth. One thing that is very important to understand is convection currents. When you heat water, then the water at the center gets heated and becomes light, moves up. The denser water, denser and colder water from the top sinks and then gets heated again and then goes up. This produces these convection circles. Convection happens in a lot of places in nature, and especially on Earth. There's convection within the oceans, there's convection in the Earth's atmosphere, and there's convection in the internal structure of the Earth. One of the very important processes on Earth is the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect causes the Earth to retain heat and be warmer. The atmosphere of the Earth, especially with greenhouse gases like water vapor and carbon dioxide, acts like a blanket and traps some of the heat that is coming in from the sun. This is one of the important questions that you should prepare for to answer properly in tests and exams in the form of a diagram question. It is very important to understand it scientifically in terms of short wavelengths and long wavelengths. When the sunlight comes in, it has short wavelengths, and so therefore it is able to, it doesn't get stopped by the carbon dioxide and the water vapor in the atmosphere. And then it hits the surface, heats the surface, and that surface is what heats the atmosphere. But then some of the heat gets reflected by the surface and by the clouds. However, when the surface is emitting the heat, because the surface is not so hot, it emits the heat in the form of long wavelengths. And those long wavelengths are not able to, the water vapor and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere actually makes the atmosphere opaque to the infrared long wavelength infrared light. And so therefore it gets trapped, therefore trapping the heat. This is what causes the Earth to become warmer than it would have been if the atmosphere was not there. This is the same way in which a greenhouse, in which we put plants. Those greenhouses, the glass walls of the greenhouses trap the heat and make them warmer than they would have been if there were no glass walls. Another important phenomenon to understand in the evolution of the Earth is the chemical differentiation. In the early stages of the formation of the solar system and the formation of the Earth was hot, molten, and homogeneous. All the material was homogeneous, but then the gravity towards the center of the earth caused the heavier iron to sink and the less dense material to rise. This was the chemical differentiation, and it is because of this that the core of the earth is made up of iron, whereas the mantle and the crust has other kinds of materials, which mostly include silicon, amongst other things, but other minerals too. How do we know about the interior of the earth? We know about the interior of the earth by studying the earthquake waves that are recorded by seismographs. In order to understand this method, we have to know about the types of earthquake waves. There are P waves or longitudinal waves, and there are S waves or transverse waves. Both kinds of waves are produced in an earthquake, and they travel through the center of the earth and through the surface, and they are felt all over the earth. Even if one earthquake occurs in some one part of the world, those vibrations are felt in other places too, even though they might be very minor, but very sensitive seismographs can detect these. And by detecting these, we have been able to understand the internal structure of the earth. These acts like the ultrasound, the way ultrasound works on human body. So whenever there is an earthquake, both S and P waves are produced, and both S and P waves can go through the solid and the surface. However, it has been noted that both S and P waves are detected in a large area around where the earthquake originated, and then directly opposite to where the earthquake originated, there the P waves are detected, but no S waves. However, there's a shadow region where neither the S nor the P waves reach, and the explanation for it is that Earth has a molten liquid core. So the S waves can only go through solid material. They cannot travel through liquid, and that's why they are stopped and they don't reach the other side. Even the P waves, because of traveling from one medium, such as a solid medium to liquid medium, and then from liquid to solid again, because the core has two parts, the inner core and outer core. Outer core is liquid, inner core is solid. In passing through those, it undergoes refraction, just like, and those waves get focused, just like with lenses. And that's why they are only experienced in a narrower region instead of the whole of the other side of the earth. Here is some description of the different layers: the crust, which is solid; mantle, which is solid but plastic also. Over a period of thousands and millions of years, there are movements that happen in it. Outer core, which is liquid; inner core, which is solid. Those are the depths and the distances and the average densities. Here is a scientific explanation of why some parts of the earth are solid and some are liquid. More specifically, why the outer core is liquid and inner core is solid. So as we go towards the interior of the Earth, there are two factors that are working to make the material either solid or liquid. There's both an increase in temperature and an increase in pressure. The pressure tries to make things more compact and solid, whereas the heat tries to make them liquid. And these red and the yellow curves show that, and there's a competition between them. The red is the melting curve, but basically that is the that shows the dominance of pressure. So where red curve is ahead to the right, it is winning, and yellow is losing. So the pressure is winning, making the mantle to be solid, whereas at around 3,000 kilometers of depth, suddenly the yellow curve starts winning. That means the temperature, and that causes the material to melt. And it remains the case for some time until we get to about a depth of 5,000 kilometers, where the red and the yellow curves exchange their positions again. And again, the pressure wins over the temperature, causing the inner core to be solid. This figure shows how the different continental plates were together once, and then they moved. When they were all together, it was called Pangaea. And then they slowly separated and formed into a separate North America, South America, Africa, Antarctica. It is interesting to note where India is. India is here near the bottom. It's near Africa, but as it moved, as it has been moving, it moved up and up, and it crashed into the Chinese continental plate. And because of that crashing, there's a little bit, you can say, like a crumpling, which caused production of a raised region, which are the Himalayas. So as the continental plates move due to convection, sometimes these rifts are produced from which lava comes out and then cools and forms islands. That's how Hawaii Islands have been formed. And then on the other hand, there is a subduction zone where huge mountain ranges are produced. Here are some pictures showing evidence of this kind of activity causing various effects. So here the Saudi Arabia plate and the Egypt plate are moving away, causing formation of the Red Sea and the Sinai Peninsula. Here are the Himalayas, showing how the crashing of the Indian plate into the Chinese plate has produced the Himalayas. The Earth's magnetic field provides protection to us from the deadly solar wind. There is a property of charged particles that charged particles cannot move perpendicular to the magnetic field. And that's why the Earth's magnetic field stops the very dangerous solar winds. solar particles from hitting the Earth. However, they are able to sneak through the magnetic field, and some of it goes into the North Pole and the South Pole. And when it hits the South Pole and North Pole, when it hits the atmosphere, different kinds of colors are produced. And those are the things that produce the northern lights and the southern lights. Here is more description of the chemical composition of 3 planetary atmospheres and comparing the Earth's atmosphere with Mars and Venus. Here, this is a very important graph that you should learn how to draw and label. It shows the temperature variation. So everybody knows that when we go to higher altitudes, either in a plane or by going on a hill, the temperatures drop and it becomes very cold. The primary reason for it is because the heating of the atmosphere happens from the ground. So first the sunlight falls on the ground, causing the ground to heat, and then the heat heats up the hot ground heats up the atmosphere. Now, because lower parts of the atmosphere are closer to the source of heat, they are hotter, and the further away points are colder. However, overall, if we look at the 4 different layers of the Earth's atmosphere, troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and thermosphere, then the temperature varies in a very interesting way. First it decreases, then it increases, then it decreases, then it increases again. Somewhere near the boundary of mesosphere and stratosphere, there is ozone layer. And this graph goes to show the importance of ozone layer. Ozone layer has these gases which stop very powerful forms of radiation from getting to Earth, such as X-rays, ultraviolet rays, and so on, which have a lot of energy. And because they stop those, the ozone layer gets heated a lot. And so again, the effect of being close to the source of heat, that is what causes the temperature to start rising in the stratosphere as it gets closer and closer to the ozone layer. So the temperature increases with altitude in stratosphere, decreases in mesosphere and thermosphere, and then finally it increases again. Here are again the 4 layers of Earth's atmosphere with some descriptions of their magnitude of their dimensions and some interesting facts about them. And on the right, it is compared with the Earth's internal structure. So with that, we come to the end of this chapter. Please study it and then do the quiz. Thank you.